Creating tables in your documents can be a little tricky, but this clip should give you everything you need to make it as simple as possible. There are 4 different ways you can render tables, and I definitely have 2 that I like better than the others. So I'm back here on our hardware and code page, and have already created a relatively simple table that you can see in the preview. With this format, to identify a header row in the table, you put equal signs above and below the text for the header, with a single space separating each column. Then you put the contents of your rows under the header, with 1 line per row. Underneath your last row, you repeat the equal sign row to finish the table. You can see the table rendered on the right. This looks readable even in the markup, but adding rows to the table can sometimes be a tedious task. For example, if I had a new product called Shiny New Platform and wanted to add that into the list, I add another row underneath LEGO Mindstorms and type the name Shiny New Platform. What you can see is that now I need to touch every other row and add some more equal signs to make everything line up again. This is actually required for the Sphinx parser to properly render your table. You can see that when I just save it with the new row, the table disappears due to the parsing error. When I walk the table to correct the other rows and then save the doc again, it now shows up with my new row. This can be pretty tiresome if you regularly add rows and they don't always have the same number of characters in their various columns. I'll get this table back to our original state now and point out one other feature. To give our table a title, which includes the ability to directly link to the table, you can include a table directive with the title above the table. Just make sure then to indent the contents of the table for it to work. This title functionality will work with any of the other 3 approaches that I'm about to show as well. The next approach is even more tedious than the first one, and I'll just paste in the text so you can see it. For this one, you basically fully paint the table. This can keep the markup more readable, but definitely is harder to keep perfect. It does allow me to control the markup width, though, because you can make a cell as tall as you want. The header under the row is marked by the line with the equals and plus signs under it. If you need to be able to see your table even in the markup, this format may be great for you. But if your table changes from time to time, this one is a pain in the neck. Finally, we get to my preferred formats, the list table and the CSV table. I'll just paste them both in and make a couple of comments about each. The list table directive provides table functionality for lists like we created early in the module. Each row is marked with an asterisk, and each column within the row is preceded by a dash. Pretty simple format, and lets you focus on the content of the table rather than tedious markup. The header rows and widths properties are important here too. Make sure you have a value for each column in your widths list, and the header rows should be pretty self-explanatory. The CSV list is very similar, but the header row is specified as a property of the directive here. I much prefer the CSV and list approaches to tables due to the fighting with the markup that you do with the other 2. In comparing CSV to list, I kind of like the lists because it seems a little more readable to me than the CSV approach. But with all of these options regarding tables, I'm sure you can find one that will work for you to create tables in your docs.